Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode 472 for the week of Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. My name is Ryan Higgins. Who's here this week?
Brock Sager.
Kevin.
And Kevin.
And Charlie.
Of course. Hello, Toby. We were wondering if you were going to make it tonight. You made it.
Well, Kevin is back, so I made it.
Good.
Oh, I'm touched, Toby.
Well, I have to be you, so...
Oh, that's right.
You
You could be me without me here.
Yeah, and I need you to be on for it to happen to annoy Ryan.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think there are other ways you could annoy him without
I
me.
do. Trust me, I do.
Yeah. You don't need much extra work to annoy me, Toby. It's okay. Hey, so we have not a ton of different news, but at least one big, massive news story here that we're going to cover in depth from this past week. Of course, that is DC's future state. But first, Toby, we're going to start off with some sales charts.
Oh, shit.
No, I'm joking. There are no sales charts this week.
Like, you've been doing that like 2 podcasts in a row. I thought I was escaping one, and then you did another one on me.
No. So
This is the merchandising sales chart. This is all the toys and all the pins and stickers and buttons.
pretty soon we'll have no more sales charts. Don't you worry. But no sales charts right now. However,
Excellent.
we do have to talk about future states. So I'm gonna read the little introduction here from DC, and then we're gonna go over the titles and have some discussion about these here. If you don't know what a future state is, we'll tell you. We'll tell you what DC says, and then we'll tell you what's going on. And then it's actually a longer intro than I thought. I'm just gonna read the first part here. It says, DC Future State takes over the DC Universe in January and February 2021 with 24 new miniseries and one-shots offered with full returnability. That's for retailers. DC is starting 2021 off with a bang, giving fans a glimpse into the future both near and far, full of current and new characters, as the publisher announces plans today, this was last Thursday, for DC Future State, a 2-month line-wide event beginning in January. Through February 2021, the full title lineup will feature a combination of monthly and twice-monthly oversized anthologies, as well as a monthly schedule of miniseries and one-shots. DC Future State spotlights the world's greatest superheroes in fresh new roles, with all new characters taking up their iconic mantles. Future State features an incredible array of talent, creative talent, combining award-winning writers and artists with new voices from the world of TV, movies, and animation. In March 2021, the regular DC title lineup resumes, continuing existing storylines from 2020 and introducing new arcs for the year. And DC Future State, the multiverse has been saved from the brink of destruction by the triumph of DC's heroes and has shaken loose the very fabric of time and space. The final chapter of Dark Knight's Death Metal on sale January 5th. And now we know why Metal number 7 was in the December solicitations, because the final issue is going to come out at the same time as all this stuff. Brings new life to DC's multiverse, kicking off this glimpse into the unwritten worlds of DC's future. So, for
Spoilers for
year
Dark
now.
Knight's Metal or Death Metal.
What's that?
Spoilers for Death Metal.
Well, for a year plus now, there's been this 5G rumor that DC was going to scrap all their characters and start their universe, or start like this future whatever, new continuity, new timeline, future versions of all their characters, new roles, new people taking over all the costumes, forever, quote unquote. Obviously, with the firing of Dan Didio earlier this year, right before the pandemic, that caused some changes to what was going to happen. I don't want to speak for everyone here, but as cool as a little 2-month event is, if this was what every DC book was going to be going forward, we dodged a massive fucking bullet. So not that I think this is bad. I'm excited for this cool little event and the possibility of adding this to the Tangent, Amalgam, DC 1 Million, Legion, Commandi, the never-ending possible futures of the DC universe or alternate universes, right?
Don't forget Futures End.
Futures End. All these alternate universes and parallel dimensions that DC pulls from. So we're gonna go through. The creators here. Go through the titles, but before we get into the nitty gritty, you guys, quick thoughts. Let's start in order. Brock, you can hit me first. Just real quick, what's your take?
I mean, again, just I like that they're stopping it and doing it line wide. The event's like a very limited 2 months. They have a handful of titles that are going twice monthly. Cool. Some are going once a month. That's fine. They're oversized as well, so you're going to get a little bit more from it because how many titles are they currently publishing?
Well, those are the. Well, I mean, they've axed a bunch of books recently, so it's not exactly the same. And some of these are anthologies, some of these are twice a month. So I mean, it's got to be equivalent to what we're getting now.
But I think that I like that kind of like that. Boom, we get it done, we get it out. It also gives a kind of break to the regular books in that they can kind of have a period of time to like reconnect or reset or kind of plan for what's going forward. And it's just fun to have a nice little contained event that you can either skip if you want and just come back to comics in 2 months if you remember to, or just pick here and there and see what you like, or dive full in like you and I are going to do.
Well, I do want to, for the record, we don't have February solicitation yet, but while the mainline DC books are not going to be around in January, that doesn't mean this is everything, right? So the list of books that will be coming out in January alongside these include all the Black Label stuff and all the Sandman universe. What would be Vertigo?
Yeah.
So American Vampire, Batman Black and White, which is the anthology, Batman The Adventure Continues, White Knight Presents Harley Quinn, Batman Catwoman, Deceased, Dead Planet, Dreaming Waking Hour, Joker Harley Criminal Sanity, Last God, Looney Tunes, Mad Magazine, The Other History of DC Universe, Rorschach, Sweet Tooth, and that's it. So all those are also coming out in January. So even if you're like, I'm out completely, you still have Batcat, you still have Rorschach,
you still have Deceased, you still have like
Toby Strange Adventure will be out in February, I'm sure, right? So like you're still going to have some of the biggest books by DC are still coming out. It's just these are replacing the action, detective, Batman, Flash, Wonder Woman, the mainline titles.
Were there 2 Strange Adventures solicited in December?
I think it's every other month. There's none for January.
Okay.
So I think they're bi-monthly. So was there maybe there was 2 in December, but I don't think so. No, unless there's one that's the first week in January.
That might be what it is. Like it might be dropping the first week and then you won't see it until the next one's not till February.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. Kevin, quick thoughts.
I seem to remember a very wise podcast host back during the 5G rumor days said, if this was just a contained event for a couple of months, it's all good. But if they're talking about doing this line-wide permanently, that's insane.
Sounds smart and sexy.
I'm paraphrasing, but I'm trying to sex you up a little.
Whoa.
Well, you made a prediction before we started recording of what everybody's reaction would be, and you're pretty much spot on. Like the regular DC books you listed as coming out are the books that I actually am the most interested in. These Future State is like if they said, we're taking the main line and making it Elseworlds for 2 months.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
Yeah,
right?
So I'll say, okay, if there's an interesting looking creative team or something, I'll kind of like pick and choose. But I would guess, based on reading the solicitation, the DC press release, so that's not really a solicitation, but it kind of gives a roadmap of the whole thing. I'd probably say I might pick up 10% of these at first glance.
For the creators that are going to be working on these books, I'm familiar with the comic people. I'm less familiar with the people from animation and movies. So John Ridley from 12 Years, writer of 12 Years a Slave, Brandon Vady from Young Justice, Megan Fitzmartin from Supernatural and DC Superhero Girls, Brandon Easton from Thundercats and the War for Cybertron, Alytha Martinez from Represent and It's a Bird, some of those anthologies, L.L. McKinney from who's doing the Nubia graphic novel coming up, Paula Sevenberg from Stargirl, and Sia Oum from the Lola XOXO comic from Aspen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and plus other people. Toby,
Yeah.
what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I'm super excited for this because Orphan is one of the main characters and one of the side stories of a book. Also, Steph is the other Batgirl in the Batgirl section of the book, so I'm super excited about that. But I've been excited before with Convergence, and I was hyped for it, but then I felt like I was really let down because I really didn't care about those books in the end. But I'm hoping this will be more like Age Apocalypse versus Convergence for years to come. That these were going to be cool stories that you go back to.
Well, look at the best from all these little possible futures. The really good stuff they've found ways to work in, right? They've taken certain characters from Age of Apocalypse and worked them into the main books, like Blink and X-Man, right? Is X-Man from Age of Apocalypse? Yeah. These can have a cool side story and give them an anthology to do after the books wrap up. They can maybe tease a little bit, but I'd be really surprised if, I'm sure they're like, yeah, we put work into these character designs and we got some good people working on them. We're not going to like scrap them entirely, but this feels perfect for like a deceased kind of sideline of a book that's going to be its own thing.
Yeah, Injustice kind of was doing that too, right? So I worry that they had these major plans and had all these creators kind of go wild. They chucked all the plans, and now they're all going to be like 4-issue, 2-issue stories, and that's going to be it. And it's not going to go anywhere. And let's just say they're just like, since they already started on it, they're going to release it, but it's not going to be deep. That's what I worry about. Like it's a lot of fluff and no sugar. I don't know if that's the saying, but anyways. But no, what I'm trying to say is I worry that, these were meant to be big things. Now they're going to be like, 2 4-issue books, and that's just not going to go anywhere. So I really hope that they're self-contained and like I said, more like Age Apocalypse, because a lot of these actually do really, very much interest me. Like the Aquaman book with what looks like to be Mara's daughter, I don't really know. And the guy from the Young Justice show, or I mean he was in the regular book too, Aqualad. I don't know what name he goes by nowadays in books, but that's a book. If that came out now, not saying in a future state, it'd be a book I'd be curious about, right? A Batgirl's book with Steph and Cassandra is like a complete no-brainer for me, and this one is slightly in the future where they're a little older and seems like they did a little bit of a what I call Black Siren take on Steph. Like she's a little tougher, it seems like. I'm like, you know what? I'm really curious about where this is going. I also was thinking the other day, like, if I were to design a Damian Batman, what that would look like, and with the full mask and stuff. And it seems like that's actually exactly what they're doing. So I'm very curious about that, or if that's even where they're going with it. So there's a lot of stuff I'm very, very curious about, and hope is solid. So I'm actually quite excited for quite a bit of these. The Brazilian Wonder Woman, I'm very curious about. It seems
a lot of hype around her.
Yeah,
a lot of hype.
I'm very curious about what's going on with the original Wonder Woman, who seems to be still around, but is carrying a bat belt around.
Yeah, so, she's like, and that's why I get the feeling that they're still going to have some stories with these characters going forward, or they're going to like. Maybe we're kind of seeing the end here, and then we're going to see some of these things start to kind of take shape over the course of the next couple of years at DC.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the better storylines will have some... I think we have to assume that the end of Death Metal is, like we've said a number of times, basically just going to reopen up the Infinite Multiverse, right? I think at this point, that's all but confirmed. They've said so much. They've said this so much within the comic itself. So this being yet another multiverse Earth, it's a cool thing. Like Tangent was one of those really neat concepts that they've taken certain characters out of there and used them a few times. Green Lantern gets used pretty regularly. A guy like her little like boast, her little like staff with the hanging lantern. It's a cool design. This feels very much like that. Not so much Earth 2, not so much Futures End. This feels like a neat little universe that they can have characters play around in, but we obviously know they're not going to get rid of the main people. Not anymore.
Look, I mean, if what the so-called 5G happened, I actually was super excited about it. Unlike everybody else on this podcast, it seems. But I always
want this to be the permanent giant air quotes.
Come on, nothing is ever permanent.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah, but come on, man. You don't even have to say it. It's nothing is going to be ever permanent. So, I was excited for it. So now, instead of getting a whole year, I'm only getting 2 months or less.
But that is the question, and we'll get to Charlie. If let's say this is 5G. This is what the character designs, the stories. We're basically getting the first part, and then we're just going to abandon them.
That'd be horrible.
Well, no, but not. I mean,
I don't.
How long?
Season. I don't want this to be a future state, state pilot season where, look, this one did well, this one did well. We're going to continue these two, and all the other ones, fuck them. I'm there's a lot of characters that they're bringing in that I'm really curious about. They're finally Grifters getting some love again. So I'm all for it. Do I want this to be the regular DC line? Nah, not really. But if this is going to be Age Apocalypse, fuck yeah.
But that's the question. How long as the full line could this have lasted? 6 months?
A year?
Depends
5 years?
A year?
So I guess for me, what it comes down to is, one,
is it good?
They don't necessarily have to have the full line last the same amount of time with the way that they've kind of been character focused, meaning the next Batman and Dark Detective stuff technically could have gone on longer than, say, the Superman stuff. Different parts of these stories have built-in reset buttons to a degree and that kind of stuff. And I guess that for me is the half disappointment, half curiosity on this is I could have seen two ways to play this. If they really wanted to play around with these kind of shit, because my first thought is they've made a lot of effort in promotion and that stuff towards hinting some of this stuff was coming. The DC fandom, some of the stuff they talked about in terms of an upcoming Batman book is absolutely this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
And I feel odd to have put that much emphasis behind there's going to be... See, now I feel bad because obviously Toby wasn't paying attention towards some of that based on what he said. So I don't want to spoil some of it. But some of that emphasis I feel gets a bit lost when you say, but it's only going to be 4 issues. It's already a built-in Elseworld. It's kind of some of the Morrison alternate versions of Superman and that kind of stuff. How impactful are some of those new versions of Superman when they had a built-in expiration date to them, and that kind of thing. So I would have much rather seen if they were calling this Future State and something at the end of Metal gave characters a glimpse of what the future would hold. So it becomes a march to, can we avert some of these future events? And that becomes sort of a rallying point on the line after the view of the future. I could get behind it. If it was even something more similar to 52, where they jumped forward in time and then you get a fill-in, well, how did all this get to this point as the story unfolds? If it's more the mystery of what happened that had Superman here and have to be replaced with John, all that stuff, I could kind of get behind it.
Well,
as a convergence with no sort of thread to history, I'd rather these all be Black Label books. If they're not actually going to be tied to story, they already have a format for a big Elseworld individual stories and that kind of thing.
Well, I would guess that that's exactly what's going to happen. I think we're going to get the main people, all the new characters and their own little side stories, but the Wonder Woman one might be the actual okay, this is the real for us, for the main continuity people, for the main continuity readers and fans. That's the actual story. There is, what is she doing? What is going on? Because she's pretty much the main part of Metal, right? She's kind of the main focal point. And this could be, okay, post-metal Wonder Woman is now here. So how is this how these worlds now collide, right?
Well, so I have a question. Have they told in anything how far in the future this is?
I thought they said like 10 years.
Yeah, because to me it only feels like it's like John's now in his 20s.
I think
Arthur's daughter is now like a teenager, right?
Yeah, I think they said 10 years.
So
I could be wrong about that, but it's not like crazy far.
Yeah, I mean Aquaman. From what Aquaman is, it's like, oh, okay, he's now in his Aqualad's now in his 20s, and he's mentoring a teenage girl, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, I'm not like what exactly how we're actually getting into this. I'm not like I don't know. I mean, it's going to be
comes out of metal.
So,
yeah.
But I think that.
But right now, the way they're talking about this and the way they're promoting this is it comes out of metal, but it doesn't. As Toby already said, like the 2 months of Convergence didn't have any real effect on the main line except for the Lois and Clark book.
Right.
So that felt like a completely self-contained event. But the reason that worked for me in a way is because it really went after nostalgia for me. Like it was all about being able to revisit the Parallax book and like all these sort of events in DC history. It was a chance to kind of put a different view on some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This, as I said, like if it's more Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, and like that kind of stuff, then it should be in Black Label. If it needs, and I'm sure we'll get more information as it sort of marches to it, but you need somebody viewing this future state or some way to tie this back to the main line beyond just this is what we were thinking for 5G. We don't want to throw away this work, so we've adapted it, and we're just going to make it a 2-month line-wide event.
I would put money on it being Wonder Woman, just because that makes the most sense. She is often, like they said, she's often like the end of time with all this stuff. Like, how does she connect now back to these future state books? And what do they do to bring her back?
Hey, Brock, here's from the press release. It says, giving fans a glimpse into futures both near and far.
Okay.
So it seems like, because some of the books, it seems like way in the future.
Yeah.
And then the Superman, I'm just going to read the first sentence here. Due to his involvement in an international crisis happening in the near future, Clark Kent has been rejected by Earth. So it sounds like it's all over the place. Ryan, when you were saying how long could this last, I think when I'm just looking at this again as you guys are talking, I'm scrolling through all the titles. The closest model that comes to mind for me is less Convergence and more Flashpoint, because it's like the known characters, but kind of in a different role. And so if DC had said Flashpoint is all of our main titles for X amount of time, as a retailer, how long could that have lasted?
Yeah, 6 months, 4 months. That's about.
I mean, obviously, there's not a right or wrong answer. I'm just wondering off the top of your head.
Yeah. And I think Age of Apocalypse was all the books for 4 months, right?
But
switched over.
The key part for me there, and you're probably right, it probably is Wonder Woman. I'm wondering how that will tie to various things. But the key point for like Flashpoint or Age of Apocalypse is Age of Apocalypse, you had Bishop as the normal version of Bishop viewing the events of Age of Apocalypse and stuff. And then in terms of Flashpoint, you had the Flash, obviously. Barry was the one aware of what was different, and they haven't really identified that person for sure yet. As you said, it probably is Wonder Woman, which would make coming out of this, does she become the gatekeeper to try and guide the universe towards a brighter future? Or I'm curious to see how.
Well, according to
I'm curious to see when we start getting the solicitations after Future State.
Well, and that's actually a really big point. So we will get the March solicitations at the
in December,
end of December, before this stuff hits. So at mid-November we'll get So we will know what's coming back and what they're doing. So,
but
I think those that Commandi Batman 39, what are those books called? I think those are also part of this as well, right?
Oh, the team up, time traveling team.
Yeah, I think that's connected to this too.
That's what Jurgens was kind of hinting at without coming out and saying specifically how.
So Metal ends, the entire multiverse is back, everything's back, all stories happen, infinite universe, all parallel dimensions, all multiverse, all what ifs, all everything. This team forms to fight something, dovetails into Future State to show, oh shit, here's this like 2099 universe where a bunch of bad crap happened. Now we're going to swing back and these characters can come back to the mainline DC universe to try to prevent the death of Batman and Superman from getting, runoff world. But in doing so, they create a paradox where now these characters, they may solve the problem, but now these characters are still around because of Infinite Multiverse, and these characters can continue among their own stories, but it doesn't make, that feels like maybe how they could run all this. And it doesn't mean that they're just going to be thrown away at the end of the story. Some of them will be, obviously, but a number of these characters will clearly stick around as they seem already extremely popular.
So back to the Wonder Woman stuff you were talking about, there's actually two.
What's that?
There's two people representing Wonder Woman. So it's like, and one is specifically, like you said, kind of more in the future because
let's get to the books. Let's start at the beginning, and we're going to go through the titles. Start with Batman. I always start with Batman. Batman's California. Batman. In this future, Gotham City is controlled by the Magistrate. This villainous regime is taking control of the city, now under constant surveillance. All mass vigilantes have been outlawed, and Batman has been killed. But led by an all-new Batman, a new assembly of Gotham's Guardians rise to give hope to all those who lost it. So, we have Next Batman, which is a 4-issue, twice a month series, oversized. This is one of the oversized anthologies, featuring The Next Batman by John Ridley, Nick Darrington, and Laura Braga. Outsiders by Brandon Thomas and Sumit Kumar. Arkham Knights by Paul Jenkin and Jack Herbert. Batgirls by Vida Ayala and Aniki. Gotham City Sirens by Paula Sevensbergen and Emanuela Lupacino. And then there's Future State Dark Detective 1-4, which again is oversized anthology, 2 a month, featuring Dark Detective by Mariko Tamaki and Dan Mora. Grifters by Matthew Rosenberg and Carmine Giandomacino. And Red Hood by Joshua Williamson and Ginas Milonogiannis. I'm horrible at Italian names. Italian? South American? Very similar.
International
that way. There's also with more than like 2 or 3 syllables, you start losing it.
So those are the $6.99, $7.99, $8.99.
It says $5.99 for.
Are they $5.99?
For Dark Detective is $5.99. Because I'm looking at the solicitation. So Dark Detective is $5.99, and then the other one, I think the other one's the one that's a little bit more. That one's $7.99. So the next Batman is $7.99.
Yeah. There's also there's also 5 2-issue miniseries. These are standard comics at $3.99. That's Superman Batman by Gene Yang and Ben Oliver, Catwoman by Ram V and Otto Schmidt, Harley Quinn by Stephanie Phillips and Simon DeMeo, Nightwing by Andrew Constance and Nicola Scott, and Robin Eternal by Megan Fitzmartin and Eddie Barrows. Now, as a retailer, and this is what I have to do for myself because I have to do this for the store as well, this is the connection I'm making between these books. They're mostly very obvious, but Next Batman is Batman. So if you're a Batman sub, you're going to be getting Next Batman. Obviously, no obligation to take it. Detective gets Dark Detective. Now, Dark Detective, I think, is it's Jason Todd, right? Do I have the cover here?
Yeah, it's Jason Todd.
I think Dark Detective is supposed to be Jason Todd.
Yeah, it is.
Batman Superman is Batman Superman. Catwoman is Catwoman. Harley is Harley. Nightwing is Nightwing. Robin Eternal. That's a question. I don't know that I have a book that I can necessarily connect that
Teen
to.
Titans?
So, but it's not really. I don't think.
I mean, it's Damian.
I mean, there is a Teen Titans book, isn't there? I'll find it.
Anyone who got Super Sons.
But maybe.
Is it Damian? I thought Damian is the Batman in the Justice League book.
I don't know. For Robin Eternal.
Let's see.
Yeah, I don't have the
Give me a second. I'm almost there.
all the covers here in front of you. So yeah, I don't know what no, I think it's
Tim Drake. No, it's Tim Drake.
Yeah.
So Young Justice.
No.
Anyone that gets Young Justice.
Maybe. So those all seem Batman-y. They do seem pretty normal for the most part. Obviously there are going to be new takes on some of these characters, but obviously next Batman's the big one that DC's pushing, and at that price, and it's good creators in there. So I know Toby's excited for the Batgirls book, Batgirls story in there. All right, Superman. Jude is involved. Jude is involved.
Black Batman that they've been talking about for the last 2 years.
Right. Next Batman. Yeah.
Like the next Batman is that possible Lucius Fox or someone else.
They think it's his kid or whatever. Yeah, sure, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, nothing's been confirmed though, really.
No, I don't think so. As far as I know. And yeah, I mean, sorry, Bleeding Cool. Nothing. Everything you said is happening isn't happening. Superman. Due to his involvement in an international crisis happening in the near future, Clark Kent has been rejected by Earth, causing him to focus his life-saving efforts outside his adopted home. He travels to Warworld to rise through the ranks as a gladiatorial combat in order to defeat Mongol with the help of some unlikely heroes. Sounds like Planet Hulk. Yeah. Back in Metropolis, Clark's son, John, has taken on the mantle of Superman. After seeing the horrors that has befallen Gotham, he bottles Metropolis in order to keep it safe, putting him at odds with Supergirl. Connecting the two oversized future state Superman titles, Shiloh Norman, the man known as Mr. Miracle, finds himself caught between the city he grew up in and the battle-torn planet that could be his downfall. Meanwhile, in the Amazon forest, Yara Flor is chosen to be the new Wonder Woman. Years later, the new Superman and Wonder Woman join forces to save their cities and a new superhero team up, the likes of which the world has never seen. So that's one of those books that does seem like it's past the future state time.
It kind of sounds like there's kind of this 10 years thing that there's this event that happens in 10 years, and then that causes us to go even further forward, stuff. Right? Yeah. So it's like Metal takes us to that 10-year point, and then that 10-year point, pushes us out even further.
Mm. So future state Superman of Metropolis, and this says issues 1 and 2, but I'm not sure. I thought all the oversized ones were 4, but maybe not. This feels, to me, the Metropolis book feels like the Action Comics title, whereas Worlds of War feels like the Superman title. That's usually how they sort of break these down. One's a little more Metropolis, one's a little more Superman. So Superman and Metropolis by Sean Lewis and John Timms, The Guardian by Sean Lewis and Cully Hamner, and Mr. Miracle by Brandon Easton and Valentine Delandro. So that is the Superman of Metropolis book, which again is one of the oversized ones. And Future State Superman Worlds at War 1 through 4. That is Worlds at War by Philip Kennedy Johnson and Mikhail Hanin. Very much looking forward to that. Midnighter by Becky Cloonan, Michael W. Conrad, and Gleb Melnikov. Black Racer by Jeremy Adams and Sia and Mr. Miracle by Brandon Easton and Valentine Delandro. So this is going to be kind of like 2 Mr. Miracle books back and forth. That's interesting. And it's weird they're using Shiloh Norman too after so much focus on Scott Free recently. And obviously this is one of the big ones, Future State, The Immortal Wonder Woman 1 through 2. So 2 issues, oversized. The Immortal Wonder Woman by Becky Cloonan, Michael Conrad, and Jen Bartel. And Nubia by L.L. McKinney, Alytha E. Martinez, and Mark Morales. We also have the Future State House of L. These are the miniseries and one-shots. Future State House of L by Philip Kennedy Johnson Scott Godlewski. That's a one-shot. Kara Zor-El, Superwoman. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. By Margaret Bennett and Margaret Savage. Never know how to pronounce her name. Legion of Superheroes by Brian Michael Bendis and Riley Rossimo. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm very hit or miss on Riley Rossimo's art. Yeah, it has to be the right book. It could be okay.
Yeah, it worked really well for the Batman Flashpoint book, right? Because was that his art?
What?
Was that his art?
The Flashpoint?
Yeah, the Flashpoint Batman.
Well, no.
Wasn't that his?
He just did a short story in one of the Metal books.
Yeah.
He did the Robin King one. Yeah. Superman and Wonder Woman by Dan Waters and Lila DeDuca. Superman vs. Imperious. We have to pause here. I'm sorry, because this is the book of the event, first of all, okay? Superman vs. Imperious Lex by Mark Russell and Steve Pugh. Reuniting the Flintstones team, might I add, okay? Kevin, Do you know what the arc? Do you know what the story of this is?
I have only looked at the title and the creative team.
I'm going to pause here because I'm going to read you the solicitation. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to read you the solicitation. Let's find it here.
Should we vamp while you're looking it up?
Welcome to Lexor, home of the greatest businessman in the multiverse, Lex Luthor. After years of prosperity, Lex's utopia is at last ready to join the ranks of the United Planets and promote peace among worlds. However, Lex has never done anything unless he has something to gain from it. What could be up to this time? Sounds like a job for Superman and his wife, Lois Lane, the Earth representative to the United Planets. It's time for the Man of Steel to shut down this former metropolis magnate once and for all. They're bringing Lexor into continuity. This is Lex Luthor's alien planet that he rules.
I hope that creative team, since he has a whole planet, there better be an Otisburg on that planet somewhere.
Otisburg? It'd be a little place.
It's right next to Casa del Lex.
I am so excited for that series. You don't even know. It's a 3-issue miniseries. I think they're just putting it in here. I think it has nothing to do with any of these books. They're just like, fuck it, we'll just make it part of this event. This, by miles, is my most excited book. And Future State Wonder Woman by Julia Jones, written and drawn, and that should. I think that's all. I think that's the Yara.
That's the Yara book, yeah.
Yeah. Justice League. A thread of great change runs through the Justice League's heroes. A new league is built upon secret identities, even from each other. But an old and evolved enemy will use these secrets to try and overthrow the world. From the supernatural heroes of Justice League Dark, the very fabric of reality is shifted and heroes are being hunted. For Flash, Shazam, and the Teen Titans, it all begins when the 4 Riders of the Apocalypse unleash hell in a battle at Titans Academy. Barry Allen is cut off from the Speed Force, a famine-controlled Wally West may be beyond saving, and Billy Batson makes a deal with the devil that will change Shazam forever. Off-world, Jon Stewart and the remaining Green Lanterns are stranded in the shadow of a dead power battery. Jackson Hyde and Andy Curry are separated across the galaxy. Jackson Hyde is Aqualad, right? And Amanda Waller executes her ultimate plan with a new but terrifying familiar Suicide Squad of Earth 3. At the end of time, Swamp Thing reveals its true intention, ruling supreme until a remnant of humanity launches a rebellion, and Black Adam looks to the past as the only way to save the future of the multiverse. So from the Superman Batman stuff seem all very connected. This stuff seems really neat. These all feel like cool, their own little things, right? Their own little cool stories.
Well, that's the impossible thing to tell by reading solicits. Which of these actually quote unquote matter and which are just go tell a fun little one-off.
Right. So Future State Justice League 1 and 2 by Joshua Williamson and Robson Rocha, as well as Justice League Dark by Ram V and Marcio Takara. That is the Justice League oversized anthology book. Future State Green Lantern is a 2-issue anthology as well. Last Lanterns by Jeffrey Thorne and Tom Rainey, and Tales of the Green Lantern Corps by Josie Campbell, Ryan Caddy, and Ernie Altbacher, with Sammy Basri, and Clayton Henry. And Suicide Squad, again, 2-issue oversized by Robbie Thompson and Javi Fernandez, as well as Black Adam by Jeremy Adams and Fernando Passerin. So those are the oversized ones, as well as the monthly miniseries. So these are all going to be 2 issues. Aquaman by Brandon Thomas and Daniel Sampier. The Flash by Brandon Vetti and Dale Eaglesham. Teen Titans by Tim Sheridan and Rafa Sandoval. Shazam by Tim Sheridan and Eduardo Pacina. And Swamp Thing by Ram V and Mike Perkins. So that is all of your Future State titles.
So the you were talking about the anthologies that are more expensive versus the ones that aren't. So the Superman one, it's the War of Worlds one. That's the main Superman.
Well, all the anthologies are more.
I know, but right? For the you were saying, you were making the distinction between Superman and action and Batman and detective. The Superman one seems to be the War of Worlds one, and the Metropolis is the action one, like you said.
The current Superman books, action is more the Metropolis book. Superman is more the Superman space book. So Superman and Metropolis makes sense to connect to action. Worlds of War makes sense to connect to Superman. Both the Wonder Woman titles feel just like Wonder Woman, so that's fine. House of L, I'm not quite sure.
That one hasn't been solicited yet. I think that's for February.
Yeah, it's in here. Superwoman, of course. Supergirl, Legion is Legion. Superman, Wonder Woman. There isn't really a connection, not a current book, but obviously market to both people. Superman versus Imperious Lex would be obviously to any of the Mark Russell stuff. Wonder Woman to Wonder Woman. Justice League to Justice League. Green Lantern to Green Lantern. Squad to Squad. Aquaman, Flash, Teen Titans, Shazam. Those all just to those same books. Swamp Thing, same thing. Marked to the people that bought the last few Swamp Thing specials. Maybe Justice League Dark. So, because also by Ram V. I'm really curious where these things are going to go. I don't have the slightest idea. I do like that in the Justice League book, Green Lantern is what's her name? Totally blanking on her name.
The new one from Far Sector?
The new Green Lantern.
I don't even remember her name.
I do like that a lot.
Looking at this Superman solicit, where he's rejected by Earth, travels to War World to rise through the ranks of gladiator combat in order to defeat Mongol, etc., etc. I'm having serious flashbacks. We've talked about it before, that omnibus called Superman Exile.
Mm-hmm.
It's that late 80s period where the main storyline, this is the Roger Stern, Kerry Gamble team.
Mm-hmm.
The main storyline is Superman exiled from Earth, wandering through the galaxy. He ends up on War World as a gladiator, battling his way up to face Mongol. Like, that's the exact storyline.
Story. Yeah.
This is just on a different Earth, so it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a criticism. I'm just looking at it going like, wait, I've read this story before. I guess they're
and the Green Lantern,
guess you're playing the old hits.
The Green Lantern is Joe Million?
Yeah. Sounds right. Yeah. So I'm cool with all of this. They seem neat. It's a lot of speculation now where they're going to go after. I don't think anyone knows for sure, but yeah, I'll give them the 2 months.
Well, do you like that the Suicide Squad is the Earth 3 characters?
That's cool.
Like,
I love Earth 3.
Take the baddies.
By the way, this has nothing to. You just said it, Brock. I just have to give a 30-second shout out. I can't remember the title of one of those death metal specials. The one that had Owlman.
Oh yeah,
that was so much fun to read.
That was fantastic.
And it was so well written as that character and why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
Oh, that was just a complete delight.
It's like, fuck the Batman who laughs. Yeah. I'm an evil Batman. Yeah, get the hell out of here. There's only one bad Batman. It's me. That's great. Yeah.
Oh, I think that was Multiverse's End.
It had that baby that infant Batman.
Yeah.
That's the one.
So yeah, I mean,
oh no, it wasn't that one.
No joking, I am 100% excited for the Superman versus Imperious Lex, of course. But they all, these creative teams, the people I'm familiar with, are all pretty decent. The concepts seem fun. Yeah, so I'm down. I don't really have too much else to say. We'll be dealing with this more in the next couple months, and when we find out more about them, we'll let you guys know, and we'll give a brief recap of our thoughts when they're shipping. So, like I said, we'll know more before it ends. We'll know where it goes before it even starts. So
you should record a tag at the start of this episode saying, if you don't care about Future State, skip to the 1 hour mark.
That's all right. Any other last thoughts before we move on from Future State?
No, I mean, I think it's really cool that they're bringing in. They're not having all their main talent working on it, right? Like right off the bat, they're kind of giving it to some other creators, which they've done a really good job doing that with the kids and the YA line. So it's now kind of like they're letting them do it in the normal, universe. I mean, normal. This is as normal as this is going to be coming out of death metal. So.
Right.
But I think that, I like that they're bigger books, less, because I mean, the anthologies that are twice a month, those are 64 pages each. So like you're getting a lot of content in those anthologies.
They're different depending on.
Yeah, it's 64 for the big one, and I think 48 for the smaller one on the anthologies. But yeah, it looks pretty cool and interesting. I mean, there might be one or two here that I probably won't end up liking so much, but for the most part, they all look really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will say this: I do consider it interesting choice, and I'm curious to see exactly how it plays out. Coming out of an event into something that would feel like an Elseworld. In terms of like when you look at Flashpoint, Flashpoint got everybody kind of excited for the launch of the new 52 to a degree and sort of the potential there. Or if you look at like Zero Hour, there's always that emphasis of coming out of the event, how will things be different going forward? This feels like it pushes that out potentially 2 months. And that's kind of an interesting decision in my mind, at least right now with the way they're soliciting it.
Well, what if they set this up as kind of, like let's say death metal is boom, it's an infinite universe, blah 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 blah. But now this is how events are going to go. They're not going to be a line wide events that are going to affect what's going on now. It's a line wide event that could potentially just be, like you said, Elseworld here, or this this planet here, or whatever theme we want to pick, and make it work for Earth's whatever 1076, right? Like,
I guess this feels like a little twofold, which is kind of interesting. Because to a degree, it feels like you're going into an event after an event with no break in between, which is a bit odd. And the closest thing I can think of that is when they did come out of Infinite Crisis and they did 52. 52 was kind of an event, but it was more of a get to know all the changes that happened coming out of it. So I don't know. This is definitely a different formula, and I'm curious to see where we get to with it, because I don't feel like this is a formula that they've ever done before. So I'm curious to see, is this more like Convergence? Is it more like Age of Apocalypse? Is it more like what Flashpoint? What sort of Elseworld or future, like what is the actual tag going forward, and how does that relate to this, or if it relates to this at all?
I would think we'll know in December.
Yeah.
I get the feeling if we're going to get the book solicited after, including, I would assume, some sort of anthology or ongoing titles past this, we'll know. And they'll have to, before, I mean,
no,
they will
I
have...
figure they need to, because right now, I guess my question becomes, how might event fatigue affect the sales of these books coming right off of an event to something that people could potentially go, well, I can just skip the next 2 months?
well, yeah, obviously that's a big concern. Again, it feels like the point of metal is to, hold on, let me start over. DC has said there's not going to be some massive line-wide reboot, right? I mean, they've commented on this that, like, we're not going to get like 50 new number ones or anything like that. So put that aside. I do feel though that the end of metal is going to have quite a bit of house cleaning done and returning of all these Earths, and the books that are going to launch, gradually we'll get, a book a month, and 2 books a month, kind of the way Marvel's done recently, where I feel like we get a couple big number ones every month, as the new titles are coming out. And that will sort of rebuild the line back up, because obviously right now we're at trim. But I could see them having this at least one anthology book, if not like 2 monthly titles. But this does not scream, it is a short event, but is it a big event? This isn't metal, right? It's not quite the same thing. So I don't know that it's targeting the same people.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is, coming out of an event like this, having something that right now feels like people who don't want to jump in on these miniseries can just skip 2 months seems odd to me.
Well, DC has to make sure people realize if they skip 2 months, then they're going to wish they didn't, because this is going to lead into or explain
well,
other
that's
things
what I'm
happening.
saying. Right now, with the way they're selling this and stuff, they're not selling it as anything other than a 2-month Elseworld event.
Yeah.
So I feel like from a marketing perspective, I don't feel like they're doing a good job right now.
Yeah, we'll see.
So I'm going to throw something out there, and it's going to be really weird, because I'm actually going to be utilizing a character that I hate. What if at the end of Death Metal, Superboy Prime is still put kind of in the position of what the Monitor was? And so what we're seeing is his view of, like, he's viewing this, and that's the future state stuff. And it's whether, like, he could be saying this can stay, this can go, right? And he's like the one that's editing the DC multiverse in a sense.
I mean, there's some kind of redemption going on with Superboy Prime, at least is from the most recent issue of Metal.
Yeah, because I didn't actually hate his guts completely at that point.
Well, it's I mean,
because again, it just feels like we've with the end of Doomsday Clock and them having kind of this kind of goal, like this editorial. It's literally an editorial goal kind of timeline. But this would be more of like we're opening up a window of and showing you like a different type of Elseworld, and that's the event that we're doing this year. Instead of doing the line wide, it's death metal, it's this, it's all this stuff. We're giving you just an Elseworlds event. Then we're going, but the regular DC universe is still going to be trucking along, doing its normal thing. And then the next event that we come into is another kind of this window to another Elseworlds, or maybe it's still connected to what's going on in the DCU.
Then I would consider it a mistake doing it so soon after the end of a big event like Death Metal.
So if this is just kind of showing you one of those Elseworlds, and it's kind of like they said, they're taking a break for 2 months. There's still some titles that are going to be coming out, but like they're taking a break, and like here, this is this Elseworlds coming out, and then after that, we're in the regular DC universe for a while, and then the next event is kind of another one of these Elseworlds things.
No. I mean, no.
So the big distinction I kind of feel on this still is right now, all of these titles sound like they could be standalone titles and Black Label with a little bit of
Label.
No, they can't be.
Black Label's like adult. I mean,
well,
there's no way they're going to introduce.
Outside of, I guess what I mean is like, yes, Black Label can definitely be adult content, but it doesn't necessarily have to be adult content in the way that I've kind of viewed it. Like, there's stuff that used to be just under the DC imprint that's got moved to Black Label because it's kind of separate from the normal DC.
No, all the Black Label stuff's more adult. It's like PG-13 stuff. To me, they're not okay. The reason I think this is different than something like Convergence was just a sort of fill-in thing, and it led to the main miniseries, but it like those 2 months were literally just fill-in stuff and kind of expanding on that story, and that was really as far as it was going to go. Age of Apocalypse obviously was a little miniseries. The reason this isn't something like what the hell is that? I said it earlier in this podcast, and I'm blanking on the name of it again. Not Amalgam, the other one. Shit. It's a Green Lantern. Green Lantern, a little hook. I was talking about it earlier.
Tangent.
Anyway, Tangent. The reason it's not like Tangent, it feels like it's similar.
Yeah.
But those were like those fifth week events, and they were never meant to be anything else other than an Elseworld. This is not an Elseworld. This comes out of Metal. This comes out of those other books. They're gonna do stuff with these characters. I would almost guarantee they're not gonna be like, and then in 6 months we're gonna have 2 more months where no books are put out. No, they're not gonna do that. They're gonna take these characters and use them in some degree.
Yeah. I guess my criticism is mainly for the press release and stuff that's come out around this thus far. Everything I've read doesn't really say how this is going to connect to things after Future State is done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially
like,
Charlie.
This isn't saying like the DC universe will never be the same, so we can all roll our eyes and be like, that's not the way these things work. But that's what I'm used to coming out of these events is like, they tend to like to focus on the ramifications from X will affect things going forward.
Well, Charlie, the press release even calls out and says, once this is over, some of the 2020 storylines will resume in the regular titles.
Yeah.
They're all going to resume.
Yeah, so so if they're just picking up where they left off, then this is just an Elseworlds pause.
And that's my point. Right now, with the way that they're framing it in the press release and stuff, we're talking about what I consider a hope for what we see come out of this, but I don't feel like DC has communicated that that's more than just us saying, maybe this, maybe that. We hope this will do that, which is kind of odd because most of the time when they're doing something like this, they have a much stronger PR department.
Well, I think we're going to have to wait till December because they probably don't want to spoil Metal. They don't want to spoil their plans of what's coming up after. all the books are coming back, and all the books that have been canceled will be replaced. They're house cleaning now, but we're going to get more books. And
this is just,
and I assume the line will just expand as time goes on.
This is just establishing the future state label. Like that's, I mean, we have Wonder Comics. This is just, we're just going to have future state comics. Like there's going to be stuff that's set in certain times or certain periods, and that's probably what this is establishing.
I think there are three possibilities. One very unlikely. The unlikely is they never mention any of this shit again. I think that's highly unlikely. I don't think they'd go through all this work for that. Two, I think the most likely is that they launch a miniseries out of this that continue, or an ongoing series out of this that continues the stories of these characters, an ongoing anthology, whatever you have to continue this world. I think that's the most likely. Or three, they're going to take these characters and now work them back into the main book somehow, whether they all travel back to the present, whether in a Kingdom Come-like way, now all the current books are now leading up towards this stuff happening. I mean, those to me are the three possibilities. And I think, to me, the most likely would be its own, like the little standalone books that DC has done a lot of recently, like Earth 2, like they had like Earth 2 and the World's Finest team up book, right?
Yeah,
like
they had
they could just
Future's End was kind of like the one shot stuff towards the end of Future's End. They
just have their own little line for as long as this universe. I mean, we could get off the subject because at this point we're very, very, very deep in the speculation.
Well, this is the thing. As a retailer, how much does returnability on these titles influence you getting behind this event?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, I think it'd be suicide if they made them non-returnable.
Now, what do you think your standard rate's going to be?
My standard rate?
Yeah, like you're most likely going to have the tiers, right? Batman, Superman, the big books. Those you're going to order X amount of. And X
I expect
plus,
everything
right?
will be ordered at or above current numbers based off the books that they're connected to.
Yeah.
Because we'll get some people will drop them, but I think more people will check them out. And it's all returnable, so it doesn't matter.
Now, Kevin, do you think you've gone up 1% after we've discussed this out? Or are you still like 10%?
No, because we're discussing the document that everybody has read. So until there's more information, my percentage wouldn't change. It's not like you guys knew something that I hadn't seen, and so you revealed, and I went, "Oh my god, I didn't know." So no, I think nobody can say their percent until you learn more, right?
Yeah. Now let's talk about one of the. We don't know much about this.
Well, I'm fucking in, Kevin. Just based on the.
Oh yeah, okay. I should say, but Toby, I don't think you'll buy every single one of them.
No, but the ones I mentioned, I'm definitely in.
Yeah, but I'm saying to give an overall, this is how many I'm going to buy. We have to wait until they exist and are a thing you can see.
I'm pretty much in for like at least 4 or 5 of them at this point, maybe even more.
Toby, now are you in for whatever book? I'm assuming Teen Titans, but for whatever book Red X first appears in.
You know, I'm one of those guys. I have no idea who he is.
Did you not watch the early 2000s Teen Titans cartoon?
Nope.
What? That is fantastic.
Didn't they work Red X into Teen Titans Go?
I think he's
at
been
least
in there.
one.
Is there any relation to Major X? Just so
No.
so we can all be clear.
No. Now, do I spoil who Red X is for the people
Robin?
on this podcast that don't know who he is?
It's Robin, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Red X it's.
You know, I vaguely remember
Dick, right?
Charlie forcing me down
Yes.
and watching.
Yeah. It's Dick Grayson. But like Teen Titans is Dick Grayson. This was like his secret identity.
Well, it
his
was when
other
he was
secret
trying
identity.
to
Infiltrate.
infiltrate by pretending to be a bad guy.
Right. He was trying to infiltrate.
Slade.
What was it?
Slade.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the whole what's the group called? His whole group.
I guess there's another book I'll be getting now.
So yeah, I just the fact that they're bringing in this is another animation character original that's getting brought in the comics for the first time. So I'm super excited for Red X. He was a cool part of Teen Titans. That was a cool story. Yeah, Toby, gotta watch that show. People were a little down on it when it first started, but it's fantastic.
Hey, I love when Teen Titans Go.
Now you guys have brought it up. I think Charlie may have at some point sat me down and made me watch that Red X thing. Now it's vaguely coming back to me.
Yeah, it's good.
Charlie didn't make me sit down on quite a few of those Teen Titans things. He has not given up on it yet. He still does it to this day.
So we're going to move over. We got a couple stories left before we wrap up this podcast here. Now, this one I know is a pretty big one for Charlie, and we'll have lots to say about this too. MCU, Marvel's digital, no relation to the MCU, Marvel's digital reading platform has announced that will be reducing the time in which their digital comics are available from 6 months after print to 3 months after print. Does that move the needle for anyone to drop all their physical Marvel comics and now only read it digitally?
It doesn't move the needle to make me drop comics I wasn't buying in the first place.
Yeah.
But,
I was going to say, at least here it hasn't changed anyone. So,
But that being said, like it did, after they announced that, I signed up for the free trial so I could catch up on some X-Men issues.
Nice.
I think it's a smart move with how fast trades are coming out, because if people do get in a little bit faster with like story arcs on digital, they're more apt to hop onto a trade to kind of finish it out if it's available.
I mean, I think it. I don't think that. I think it does nothing. I think it changes nothing. I think if you're on MCU or MCU, if you're a comic reader, you're buying it week one.
Ryan, let me give you a quick quiz. Guess some feedback from a retailer forum.
Oh,
it's multiple choice. A, no comment at all, no opinion. B, that's interesting. Let's see what happens. Or C, oh my God, they're cutting our throats. Marvel, they're trying to drive everyone to digital. F Marvel, this is the end of the world.
Downfall of the entire comics are now dead. Print comics are dead. The industry's over.
This is what the companies want. All digital.
Telling you, we should buy up some comic book stores throughout the Midwest, man. They're going to be going cheap.
The people that buy comics, buy single issue comics the week of release, they're still two months and 3 weeks ahead of these people instead of 5 months and 3 weeks.
Or some of them are even 6 months behind in reading their physical issues.
Well, that's a separate problem. But I mean, if you want day-to-day digital, you're using Comixology or you're pirating it. If you don't care, you're on this already. If you want physical, you're buying physical. I just don't see. No, if MCU was release day, that would be a very different thing. Yeah. But I just don't see this changing anything. If this is what if you're reading this, cool. You just got 3 months of comics to read, and now you're still 3 months behind instead of 6 months behind. DC moved from a year to 6 months with DC Universe or DC Universe. So
isn't it DC?
That was actually my first thought.
DC Infinite,
when DC announced DC Infinite, Marvel's like, well, then we're going to make it 3 months instead of 6.
And there's no world in which they release something like this. I think Archie is doing the current books available if you have Comixology Unlimited. But again, I mean,
so I will say this from a reader who's really behind point of view. I am more comfortable being like, oh yeah, I'm going to be 3 issues behind perpetually, 3 to 6, depending on the double shipping, not double shipping, than 6 months behind where that's 6 to 12 issues on a lot of things. I mean, it definitely makes me feel like when somebody asks, what do we think of X-Men? I'll have a more accurate answer than what I read back in February or whatever.
Well, at least 3 months ago.
Well, this is of everyone here, Charlie. You probably end up buying the most Marvel stuff because of all the omnibuses and stuff. But this doesn't affect that, right? You're not going to not get omnibuses because of.
And
those.
I mean, realistically, so this is the interesting thing about these digital services for me, and this is for me actually a really good thing. They've had 2 effects that do affect how much I spend. One, I'm not going to rush out and buy Exoswords until the hardcover comes out. But with this
deluxe hardcover,
I will technically probably have had a chance to read a bit of Exoswords before I buy that hardcover. And whether or not that is going to make me still interested in the hardcover, we'll see. Because like I still haven't bought the hardcover for the Hawks and Pox. because I don't feel like it led to something that makes me being like, I need this run in my collection. So it's a little bit of a having these digital subscriptions takes the urgency out of buying something for the desire to just read it to a degree for me, which is very helpful. Like I noticed a omnibus recently came out for the Absolute Carnage event,
Yeah.
and I haven't read any of it, so I chose not to jump on the omnibus. But that's one of the first things I did when I signed up for Marvel Unlimited was I added that to a reading queue so I can start it to determine, do I want that omnibus actually? It's kind of flipped that around a little bit where I feel like there's been at least one omnibus I didn't buy because I decided to do a little bit of reading first to determine if it's actually an omnibus I wanted to get.
Now,
I mean, but you would have done that anyway, right? You probably would have just waited.
Potentially.
Does the 3 months change that, or
no? 3 months doesn't change that. If it was still 6 months, it would have been fine. But I do feel like because of the size my collection got to, I have to be more critical rather than impulse buy some of this stuff. And digital helps me a lot in terms of being able to critically decide, does this belong in my collection or not?
So you're saying like the library, like how big the catalog is and what you're paying per month is what helps that?
Well, having the catalog to be able to read some content before I invest in the book helps that a lot. And this even includes some of like the older omnibuses and stuff. Is like I was interested in the Spectre omnibus because I like the Spectre as a character in general. But reading some of the content of the Spectre that existed, like the character in that omnibus doesn't exactly match the Spectre that's in my head from sort of the modern take on Spectre versus the original take on Spectre. And that helped me go, okay, I'm still interested in a Spectre omnibus if they do some of the later Spectre stuff. I don't need the early Spectre stuff kind of thing. So I like the digital services for that because I feel like I make less mistakes.
Well,
I'll tell you what was a little more for me is all the unread single issues or in boxes I'll never touch at home. So they should worry more about that than doing 3 months on a comic book service.
Who should worry about that more?
Well, just whoever the complainers are. Like great books. I mean, the fact I got like a massive amount of books that at home that I can't afford.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm not worried. Like people, if it's sitting on your digital tablet unread or it's sitting in your long box unread, it's the same. People are going to have these same problems, right? You're not going to suddenly find the time to be like, oh, well, since I don't have to buy comics, I'm going to read like 8,000 more. Like, fucking maybe if you're like a teenager, but like, the problems all of us adults have is no time, right, to read any of this stuff. So the people that collect are going to collect, and digital options have always been there. I'm sure a decent amount of comic subscribers have DC Universe and Marvel Unlimited. So, if maybe you'd find something you didn't know you liked and you buy the collection, but I think you just wouldn't have bought those books in the first place. The big stuff is still going to do well. I don't see this affecting sales. And if someone is going to drop physical for this service, they are probably we're going to do it at some point anyway, right? I would think it's minimal. There are no variant covers when you buy this stuff. There's no collectability. That's a huge part of the industry at this point. So yeah, I just don't.
Yeah, if I had more time to go and just read kind of, I wouldn't. It's not even old stuff, or not even like new stuff, just older stuff that I missed. I if I had more time, I would subscribe to the Marvel Universe app and to DC Infinite. But I might jump on here or there for a month if there was something that I really wanted to test out, or really just kind of wanted to research some stuff. But other than that, I mean, the service is, it's just the library and it's a fee to utilize it.
So just because I have to admit this was my first thought. When I read this, my very first thought was like, so if I was reading Doomsday Clock, I'd be an issue behind.
Well, with something like Empire, that all came out in 3 months. Marvel fucking hauled ass on that thing. So, but yeah, if you were like, holy shit, I love fucking Celestial Madonna. It's the greatest story ever. I need what the hell is his name? Kotadi? What's the
Yeah.
dude's name?
I think that's right. Or is that the race? I don't even remember. Go ahead.
You're like, you're going to go buy the book, right? I mean, you're not going to be 3 months behind if you're like, this is my favorite thing ever. So
yeah, you'll jump over to Comixology and buy it digitally, or you'll go buy the book physically.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of this, one thing that's kind of nice, especially at the 3-month mark, but even at the 6-month mark, is other than the typical, this book was insane because of speculation, blah, 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 blah. For the most part, if you start reading something you really like, you can still find the issues after it fairly easily if it's only an issue 3 months ago or even 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
The longer it is, the harder it would be for people to fill in holes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. At this point, though, I mean, retail is Wednesday to Saturday. This has not changed. You know, the amount of books we sell, they come from that first 4 or 5 days, and for single issues, that's usually it, right? So I don't see this changing those customers who are like gotta have it day one.
All right, next news.
Yep, we got 2 more, a little on the retail side. First one, if you guys remember with DC when they left Diamond Comics earlier this year, they went to 2 newly formed distributors, Lunar and UCS. Well, as of January 1st, 2021, UCS, which mostly distributes to East Coast stores, will no longer be distributing DC Comics. So,
Is it all those lawsuits or criminal charges that were brought against them for all those books that they didn't ship to people and said we shipped them to you?
UCS, I've heard some pretty terrible things about, although some people have had no problems. So it's kind of weird that we now have, one place to get DC Comics from.
We had one place to get DC Comics from like a year ago.
Maybe this is the hardest of hardballs the DC is playing with Diamond, and in 6 more months we're just going to be back at Diamond for DC. But I'm not too surprised this didn't quite work out. UCS, I heard some problems with, but Lunar is going to be taking over all the distribution, and we've had great success with Lunar, almost no problems. So yeah, it's bizarre. UCS will not be closing. We'll be offering other exciting items that stores can use. Although they did not respond to this is from ICV2 to questions about whether the period it distributed was planned, or if not, and why the relationship was ending. So, funny enough, Midtown Comics will now be buying its comic books through Lunar instead of buying it through its own company, UCS. I know Midtown has been doing some stuff. They're like doing some massive like back issue catalog warehousing. I heard some stuff about Diamond wanting to getting into like back issues, which is fucking bizarre. So maybe UCS and Diamond are going to team up for that. I have no clue. That's really strange.
Diamond shipping back issues to people. Oh god,
that's what they.
That's a nightmare.
If they want to buy boxes of dollar books of books I've not been able to sell off the shelf, Diamond, I'll hook you right up. I'll give you that inventory right back. So yeah, I don't exactly know what the deal here is. It's really strange. But Lunar's been good to us, so hopefully, just with now probably doubling their accounts, hopefully this doesn't cause a problem. But I'm okay with that.
Well, like you said, I mean, like. We haven't had really any problems with Lunar, but you said before UCS, there's been problems. I mean, I've seen it where stores are like,
I did say that
their products were damaged, their products like they were having issues even contacting them about stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna get into distributing, you want to do the best job possible, and you want to make sure that people come back and are like, yes, we want to utilize you. So who knows?
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, Kevin, was the reaction on the retailer forum the exact same reaction as the Marvel Unlimited announcement?
Honestly, with this kind of thing, I just kind of skip because it's much more something that affects a store than a customer. And so I just kind of tuned it out. But I know there were a lot of like the emojis that have like the angry face with the red
the horns.
Not the horns, but like it's like the furious
Facebook.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Facebook one. Yeah. Well, so the problem is retailers had to choose between two loaded guns. Do you support discount comic book service and in-stock trades, or do you support Midtown? These are the greatest enemies to comic book stores.
Yeah, because you're in direct competition with Midtown and them, like,
Or
every
in-stock
day.
trades. Like, fuck it, dude. Well, we're going to move over to our final story of the night, which does affect retailers and does affect customers. And again, lots of angry emojis. I'm sure you saw this, Kevin. While it is good news that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Last Ronin #1, which is after a long delay, is finally coming out. This is IDW's kind of weirdly sized Dark Knight ripoff. It sold 130,000 copies.
That's good.
Unfortunately, retailers ordered much more than that.
Huh?
IDW, while they are on the final order cutoff program that Diamond Comics uses, basically we give the companies our final numbers and then the companies print to those numbers. IDW is on the FOC program and yet prints before, says print runs before FOC numbers come in. So we've had a couple of books recently that have been selling out or heavily allocated. There was a G.I. Joe Snake Eyes like reprint that we got 0 copies, straight up 0, because we had like 4 or 5 customers ordered and we got none. We got allocated to 0 copies because of how many other stores ordered. I have no idea how it works. So, of course, Last Ronin #1 doesn't come out for a couple of weeks, but already selling upwards of $50 on eBay. 130,000 copies pre-ordered, and I'm sure not a single copy will hit the shelf. Second print's already been printed. We are getting some like special thank you cover that I'm sure will sell for $100 or whatever. But like for everyone that thought they were going to be able to walk into their store and buy this comic, you're probably not going to be able to. So I would What's that?
So I'm not getting it.
I mean, by the time it comes out next week, we will probably not have any shelf copies. So I believe we still have a couple left. Toby, pick up your phone, open that Comic Hub app that I know is installed on there.
Hey, Ryan, remember when I asked you about when the preview came out? And
I sure don't. That's what Comic Hub is for. Type in Last Ronin, hit that open order variant cover button if you want, add a couple to your cart, make sure you check out, which then sends the order to Comic Hub, and we'll in the morning I'll be on to accept that app order. Your phone will buzz you. Maybe it's on there. You know, Toby, if you go to Comic Hub, you can check your order history on the tab on the right hand side, or you can check on your computer
tomorrow and just stare at you really.
I'm saying you can check your order right now for Last Ronin, and you can you can tell me if I put you down for it.
Toby, don't you know by now that if your question starts with Ryan, don't you remember that you can just stop there because the answer is always the same?
Oh, I know.
The hub has replaced my need to remember this.
Well, no, you're so much busier with other stuff. Why should you have to remember this stuff?
Also, the hub has replaced my ability to need to remember this.
I'm going to go in right now on Comic Hub. I'm going to go to next Wednesday's items.
Well, there will be nothing on next Wednesday's items.
Oh, that's right.
It's the invoice in the morning.
Invoice in the morning. Okay, fine. And I'll order.
There you
them,
go,
and
Ryan.
I'll hold
I
them
ordered
over.
a single issue.
Toby, Charlie may have got the comic and you didn't. So,
Which one did you get? Is it the first? No, I don't want that one. Let me see. Let me do them all. Which one do I want? Oh, cover A. Screw it. I'm putting it in my cart right now.
We'll see.
Screw you all.
It's in my cart right now.
No, I've been
pre-order.
So as was already discussed, Darkness, Night-esque, etc. But for me, it's primarily the duo of Eastman and Lair doing a book together again.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened after the Netflix documentary.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely what they started working on after they reunited as part of that Netflix documentary. Absolutely.
Which
All right,
is
put it in.
really.
Come on, Toby. I got my order in too.
Fuck you too. I'm gonna walk into the store tomorrow and I'm gonna hand Ryan some cash.
to pay for the stuff you haven't paid for yet?
Hey,
Kevin, did you order a copy already?
Dude, I haven't read a Turtles comic, and this is no shade at Turtles at all. I'm just saying I haven't read a Turtles comic since those original black and white ones.
Wow.
It's just not something I've kept up with.
Well,
it's not any comment about the quality.
That's part of what makes me the most interested in this. Like, don't get me wrong, I've been reading the IDW series and the hardcovers and that kind of stuff, so there's nothing against what's currently going on in the IDW series. But my understanding is this is the equivalent of Dark Knight. It's more of an Elseworld. It's more of a final story out of the minds of the original creators. So you don't have to have kept up with Turtles at all, in theory, to enjoy this book.
Gotcha.
yeah, instead of ripping off one Frank Miller story, they're going to rip off another Frank Miller story.
Well, it's probably going to be good radio if I just go on the hub and read all the covers out loud right now and order it, right?
You should.
How many covers are there?
4, 5?
I think some
5?
of those are those incentive variants. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, my shit got longer today.
What's that?
My shit list got longer today. You names have been at it. No, I'm kidding.
You just gotta get on that hub, Toby, and make that order. So this would be the part where I read the outro stuff to the podcast, but it does appear that I did not grab the outro stuff when I pulled my backup from my old computer. And Patreon has to send me a device
Are we on already?
verification to get into Patreon because I have not logged in on this computer yet, and it does not seem to be sending me that.
Check your spam folder.
My spam is always empty. Trust me. So
We're winging it.
I guess we're gonna wrap up this episode now.
Wrap it up without having a nice little shout out to our very own Bryce Larson, who is very old today.
Yes.
It's 20 or something like that. 21. Can you drink yet?
And at the same time, I want to wish a happy birthday to Greg Indigator Anderson, who is future Bryce. And as future Bryce, he has his birthday a couple days before Bryce.
That's how that works.
Yep.
And Bryce's is today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it goes Craig, Bryce, and then I'm next week. So it's obviously a cool club.
Fucker. I was going to set this up as in the future birthday in case you were not going to be on. Happy birthday to you too.
Yeah.
Well, I will be back. You could tell me in person, or if this counts as in person.
It does in COVID.
Lots of pod birthdays.
Yeah.
Now Bryce did say he did LOL at me telling him that he should be on the podcast. Oh hey, I got into Patreon. He did LOL at that. However, I think he's going to try to be on next week. No promises, but he's gone this week. But he is going to try to be on next week. So
I think you just literally breathed life into Bryce Larson quotes. It was dead, but now it is going to be resurrected.
Well, I do want to thank all our high tier backers: Joe Duff, Jesse Peterson, the Comic Book Matters podcast. Remember that? Jimmy Rivera from the Social Forum podcast, Andrew Nelson Mendez from Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast. This all when I just see the names, it triggers it in my head because I've said some of these names so many times. Craig Anderson, happy birthday, Craig Anderson. Happy late birthday. And CraigPAnderson.com. Mario Miranda as well. Thank you guys all very much for your continued donations at patreon.com/comicconspiracy. You should go to geekbox.net and comicconspiracypodcast.com, as well as where else do I tell people to go?
Well, our YouTube channel at some point. iTunes and Spotify. Your podcast,
Apple Podcasts.
Your podcast listening places like Spotify.
Yep, like Spotify. There you go. You should go to conspiratorBrock.com. It's Brock's blog, video pull-ups and unboxing videos. Listen to the Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension podcast, Charlie's Doctor Who podcast. Etsy.com/shop/Leanne Hill Art, my wife Leanne's Etsy store. You can go there.
Speaking of stores, you should actually talk about the store because you completely skipped that part.
Comicsconspiracy.biz, where you can go to be forwarded to our stores.comichub.com account now, because they've changed all that. So we should be getting some new updates on that page in the not too distant future. You you should follow most of us on Twitter.
Oh, dude, I don't know. Like, it's like a void. I send something and they're like, we're adding it to your case. And I'm like, well, when are you going to look at my case?
Can we trade
Ryan Higgins Ryan. That Kevin Sharp.
What'd you say, Toby? Wait, I think this might be worth hearing.
Oh, I don't really care to be on Twitter, so I might be the one that's banned.
Oh.
You want to give Brock your login?
I'm not
start posting.
Well, that will take like 4 hours, so no.
Toby XI is Toby. Insanity and Chaos is Charlie. That Kevin Sharp is Kevin. Comics Gone Store is a store. Very soon, Brock Sager will be back on Twitter. Yeah.
I don't know. At Twitter support, say, why can't I talk to this guy? I don't know. Because if you at me, I can still see it. I just can't reply.
So there you go. That is the... so listen, Geekbox this week. We talked about World of Warcraft 9.0.1 pre-patch expansion. I talked about that a little bit. Talked about Mini Computer. Talked about playing some Microsoft Flight Simulator. That was pretty cool.
Are you guys talking about Among Us?
I don't think anyone. I think Ryan plays a little bit, but that's it.
Do you like those little guys staring at you while you're sitting at the counter?
Season finale of Lovecraft Country, which I still have not caught up on yet. Could get to that soon. Good stuff over on the old Geekbox. Oh, I haven't played it yet. I've got them.
Are you saving it for our race?
I had something. Yeah, I want to load them up, but I gotta get some time and room really to play those things around.
I'm telling you, the store, we're doing it.
Well, I will pressure Bryce this week, assuming he's COVID-free and able to record, that we can have a double birthday get-together on the show next week.
Oh, a whole lot of drinking during that episode.
Pretty good.
Hell yeah, man. You're reading right through my motives.
Hey, I'll have a beer.
And Total Wine ship it to places?
So that is it. We are done. Thank you all very much for listening, and we'll be back next week.